Hello, everybody. I want to thank you again for tuning in. We're continuing our 2025 Montgomery County Football Media Day. We're now joined by Montgomery Central head coach Wyatt Page and senior lineman Wade Green. Guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you for doing this. It means a lot that you guys were able to come and sit down, talk about the season. But, Coach Page, just kind of want to jump right into it. 2-8 last season in your first year as a head coach. Just kind of how would you rate your first year as a head coach at Montgomery Central?
I think it was very productive. I think we were able to make a lot of progress off of where the program was before. Obviously 2-8 isn't something that you look at and would typically call a huge success by any means. And our standard and expectations is definitely higher than that. But I felt like the things that we set out in the preseason to focus on, we accomplished and we continued to progress through the entire season. So I wouldn't say pleased with it, but I was happy with the direction we were going in after the end of last season.
What were some, challenges that you faced as a first-year head coach that, just in general, and then maybe some things that you might not have thought that you had to be responsible for and things like that?
Yeah, every first year, I think you have to set your standard and your expectation for the program and how things are going to be done. So that was really the big thing, all the way from how we're going to work in the weight room to how we're going to behave and conduct ourselves in the school building, because that's the most important thing to us in this program, is because our guys are students well before they're athletes, and they need to act that way. But just setting those expectations from the weight room to even as little details as the stretch lines before practice. Because, every coach kind of has a different flavor that they bring with them. And I think the guys, it took a little bit of time, but I think they're pretty receptive to what we were doing and the way that we do things. So that was a big thing. Unexpected things, I would say, was kind of the logistics. Every school is a little bit different. So our practice field is way off on the backside of our campus, and our locker room's inside the school. And our weight room is a little bit smaller than what I was used to. So just figuring out the logistics of everything. But we were able to nail it down pretty quick and get a good little routine going. So,
were there things that you learned in year one that you were able to kind of use to prepare and maybe even tweak some stuff this offseason going into your second year?
Oh, absolutely. I keep a journal every week of things that need to possibly change and evaluate. We've tweaked several things. Scheduling is a big one, the off season, and kind of how we schedule things, and certain, you're never really. People always say you're never really ready for your first head coaching job. And I think that is true, because you learn so much in that first year. And I hope to continue to learn much more in the second year, because you got to always grow and adapt, because as long as the first time that you stop growing, learning, and adapting, that's when you're going to get stagnant and not find that success.
Wade, up at, when the Tennessee Titans had their high school media day a couple weeks ago, your teammate Braden Santavalelac was up there, and, we were talking, and he was talking about how, the season prior, before last year, when you guys went winless, he talked about how he wasn't used to feeling what winning felt like. And when you guys talk about maybe 2-8 is not what you want your record to be, but based on the year before, it was a major improvement. But when you're able to stack wins like that, when you're not used to that feeling, and then you bring back as many guys as you do this year on both sides, does that kind of help, make you guys a little bit more tight-knit, that you've been through those kind of things together?
For sure. The morale is definitely higher. Coming from a 0-10 season, everybody's ready. They're ready to feel that win again. That's why everybody, like Coach said, being receptive. We were all ready to feel something new. So we were taking on these new challenges and new approaches to practicing and everything else. And that's why everybody is tighter knit, like you said. We're ready to roll pretty much.
You guys, when you won that game against Whites Creek, in basically what was a hurricane, the only score of the game was a 105-yard pick six, and then you beat Greenbrier the last game of the season. Are there things that you can take away from games like that? Even games like the Whites Creek game, where it's maybe not in ideal conditions, are there things that you can take away from games like that to kind of propel you into the next year?
100%. One thing that we talk about almost every day is fighting through adversity, right? And that's obviously, we played through almost a hurricane. I mean, it was pouring down rain. You went to the sideline and you were ankle deep in water, and it was, and Greenbrier, it was a tough game. There was a lot of chitter chatter back and forth, but we kept to ourselves, right? We played our game, and that's how we came out on top. We focused on our game.
Bring back 8 starters on offense, 9 on defense. When you can bring back that much production from the year before, I think you graduated Jack Pulley, the quarterback that had to fill in kind of after the first couple games. But when you can bring that much production back, does that kind of, help make your job a little bit easier to where you don't have to maybe provide as much, instruction? You can kind of turn it over to the guys a little bit.
Oh, it's huge, man. And we're bringing back, and we're still young, even though bringing back 8 and 9 on offense and defense, we're still young. We have 8 seniors, and all 8 of those seniors are going to be big contributors for us, but we're still largely a junior and sophomore team. But it's definitely a big advantage because we have all of our, plays, terminology, our systems in, and that carries over. So we don't necessarily have to spend as much time teaching the basics as we were in comparison to last year. Now it's more execution, focusing on the fundamentals, and then maybe even branching out and adding some other things to it. So that's great. The experience is one of the biggest. It's like a currency in high school football. Okay, you're going to have waves where you have a lot of experience, and those kids graduate, and this time you're a younger team. I think we are a young team, but I do think we have a certain amount of experience coming back with those guys.
Going into year 2, when last year's your first year ever as a head coach, were there things that you're trying to bring to the program, like intangible type stuff, kind of try and build a culture?
Oh, absolutely. We're big on accountability. Everybody's held to the same standard. Our big, I would say motto this offseason was MC over me. The team's always first. We are a team well before we are, individuals, whether that's stats, playing time. Everybody, we got 83 kids on the team this year. And every single person is going to play a role in some way, shape, or form. And it's not about what that role is or who's getting their name in the paper, who's getting the touchdowns. It's about what's best for Montgomery Central football and the brotherhood that we're trying to build.
Wade, Coach Page, he's not, too far removed from a playing career himself, especially being a lineman like you are. And Coach played offensive lineman in college, high school, things like that. Is it for the linemen and, mainly some of the offensive guys, is it easier to kind of build that relationship and kind of feed off Coach where he has the experience that you're looking for in that position?
For sure. His energy is contagious, not to brag on him. But, he gets out there and he's all fired up and everybody's ready to go. But it speaks numbers because we're out there and we're doing our drills, and some people may think, like, oh, why are we doing this? But we don't have that attitude because we know that everything we do has a purpose, right? Coach Page knows what he's doing. He played that position. He coached that position. He's seen all different aspects of the field, right? So we just trust that what we're doing has a greater purpose, and it does. We see it pay off, and we go scrimmage and all these other things.
Not only that he played the same position as you, and also not being too far removed from a playing career. Does, when you look at some of the other coaches around, they might be, 20, 30 years older than their players. Does that like smaller age gap kind of help you build that relationship with Coach Page and kind of be able to build that continuity?
I would say so. It's not like we're, hanging out, going to eat on Friday.
Yeah.
But we do definitely, we crack up and when it's time to have fun. But we definitely, since he is younger, obviously we have a lot of we have respect period for coaches, and I don't know if age really has something to do with it, but when it's time to lock in, it's time to lock in. And Coach Page definitely does a great job facilitating that.
It's a fine line. There's times to have fun. There's times to lock in, right?
And we're very good our team is very good at knowing when those times are. So.
After, last year, even though you bring back most of the production on both sides, when you look at, the offseason, were there things that, going into the offseason, you said, this is what we absolutely have to get better at?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the weight room is priority one for us in the offseason, and our guys got after it in the weight room. We went up. I can't remember exactly. I think it was like 3,000 or 4,000 pounds on our three main lifts. They attacked the weight room. Getting bigger, faster, stronger was great, but also that team side of it, that culture, that building that. We did a lot of team building activities, and I think that kind of paid off. I noticed a few moments last night in our scrimmage where you could see the guys leaning on each other, pumping each other, even if it was a senior when the JV was in, getting those guys up, some of those freshman guys. But that was our big focus, man. It wasn't really, we took a step away from maybe the schematic things of football, and it was really, hey, let's get in the weight room, get after it. Let's do our agilities and our speed work, and let's progress as athletes, but also build that team bonding, that team chemistry part of it.
Went from 0-10 the year before to 2-8 last year. What does progression look like in year 2 under you, do you think?
We're process based on everything. We're not outcome based. So our process is every single day we're showing up and we're living our standard, the One Tribe standard, putting the team first, working hard, taking coaching, being coachable, being a good teammate, and really being physical in practice. I think that would be our biggest thing right now. I've harped on those guys, but we're not outcome driven. If we show up every single day and we work the way that we know how to work, the results will come in the end. But I would love to see us take a great step forward. As long as we put the team first and we hold ourselves to that standard, it will happen. I have no doubt.
Wade, from a player perspective, Coach obviously isn't out there running the reps with you guys, but from a player perspective, how much growth and improvement do you think that you guys have made this offseason?
Oh, it's astronomical. Especially seeing it, now I'm a senior, right? So I'm seeing it not from a higher perspective, but just from up here when everybody else is working together. And it just seems like everybody is when they're helping their teammate and they're encouraging and we're not breaking each other down, right? If something goes wrong, which it will, we expect things to happen. Your teammate's going to come over and he's going to say, look, this is how we're going to fix it. We're not going to point fingers or do any of that. But we've created this culture where people are building each other up, telling the right way to do things. And I think that if everybody adopts that mindset, then that's how we're going to be successful.
And they've done a good job of pushing each other. And that was a big thing that we talked about last year, one of those first year struggles, like you asked earlier. It was, how do I properly hold my teammate accountable? It's not always, the negative side of things. Most of the time it's the coach's job to come in and do the critiquing, right? When you're being a good teammate in my eyes, is lifting that guy up, positive re-encouragement, but also pushing them to be better at the same time. So it's kind of a fine line, and this senior group has really done a good job of finding that.
Wade, when you guys, when Coach kind of turns some of that responsibility over to you guys, where you guys have the freedom to kind of become one of those player-led teams, do you think that things like that kind of raise the ceiling of a team when you guys can, like you said, hold each other accountable?
It definitely does, because it creates respect, among everybody. You see guys that you'd never even expect to say something come up, and they start breaking down the huddle, or they're telling you got a younger guy telling a senior to get in his stance correctly, watch the ball on defense. It's great because we know that not one person is above the other, and that we are a player-led team. So yeah, definitely.
Want to get into your schedule a little bit. You open the season at Sycamore, then you're at East Hickman, Harpeth Northwest at home, at Hickman County, Clarksville Academy at home, at Battle Creek, Marshall County at home, at Creekwood, and then round out the regular season with Spring Hill at home. Just kind of want your overall thoughts on that schedule. You didn't move regions, but there's a couple of teams that moved in and out of that region that kind of posed some different challenges for you this year.
Yeah, and it was a unique situation because, most schools aren't in a 5-team region. So that kind of puts a lot of, onus on you you got to schedule 6 games. So I was pleased with what we were able to find, renewing, Montgomery Central and Sycamore has played several times throughout the past few years. So I thought that was a good local team that we could play. They're a really good team, made it to the second round of the playoffs and hung with East Nashville there in the first half, which is another good team. But I think we were able to find some teams that were local, but were also, going to challenge us in certain ways to get us ready for region play. East Hickman, they won their region last year, and they run the single wing offense, which is old school, but they're really physical and they're downhill. So I think that's going to be a great challenge for us. And then the region, Marshall County, Coach Osteen over there does a tremendous job. Creekwood, our biggest rival, big region game for us. Coach Steele, he also does a great job down there. So, really trying to prepare us for that region schedule there at the end. And then we've got 2 Thursday night games, which will be fun. Got Marshall County coming to us on a Thursday night, and then Spring Hill rounding out the regular season there on a Thursday night.
Wade, the offensive line last year had some good players like yourself and Justin Vaughn, but Justin Vaughn and some of those other guys, graduated now. Just as a senior, how have you kind of gone about, elevating yourself to where you're now one of the leaders on not only offensive line but probably the whole offense?
Well, really, we're not trying to just fill shoes. We're trying to exceed what we previously created. So just taking the things that we learned with those guys that were good players for us and taking it to the next level, right? We've got guys that are very, very capable of doing great things for our offense. We have an offensive line that is very, very capable of making things happen this year, and it's just bringing it together and making it happen. So we're ready for it.
What do you think is maybe something that you guys have improved on the most throughout the offseason? What do you think?
I can hop in on that. Throughout the offseason, I would say our physicality and our consistency. We had streaks last season, even in practice or whether it was on Friday nights, where we would do some really good things. But I think the consistent work and also, our roster has grown, which brings its own challenges. But I feel like our standard hasn't changed. So those guys who are new to the program, whether they're freshmen or older guys coming out, they've came right in and talked about being a player-led team. Our leaders, they stepped up and showed them the standard and showed them the expectation. And it's been like a seamless transition. So I would say our strength, our overall team speed has improved. And then our physicality and the consistency, which is the biggest thing to me, because you are what you consistently do.
Bringing back most of the production, but, who are some guys that you're expecting to kind of be some of your top guys this year?
Oh, man, that's tough because we got several guys that I think are going to contribute on both sides of the ball. Wade, he's going to be playing guard and defensive end for us. Caden McLean, tight end, defensive end guy. Braden Santavalelac was an all-region guy last year on offense. He's really smart, plays hard. Darius Howard, he's going to be a sophomore. He's a young guy for us playing running back, but he's got some really special abilities, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Kason Rash, he'll be our middle linebacker. He'll be a junior. He played for us quite a bit last year. I'm expecting some big things out of him. Wesley Mobley, receiver, corner guy. Grant Odie's going to be another big player for us. I could go on and on all day. I'm excited about a lot of the guys that we have, but that's just a few that come to mind.
You talked about, some of the things that you guys improved on throughout the offseason. But, at this point, we're a little under 3 weeks before the start of the regular season. What do you think you would say some of your strengths are as a team, and then maybe some things that you need to tighten up a little bit before the start of the regular season?
Yeah, our strengths, man, I would say we're a gritty, physical team. We're going to hit you in the mouth. We're going to play our style of football. And one thing that I think has had a tremendous amount of improvement on is that facing adversity that Wade talked about. These guys ain't got a whole lot of quit in them. They're going to give it their all every single snap. And I think that's one of the most important things about high school football is your physicality and your effort. So I'd say that's our strength right now. Another strength I would say is I think our guys have really progressed in just knowing the game of football, situational football, understanding their job within the offense or defense. So I would say that's some of our strengths right now.
Went from, like we said, 0-10 the year before to 2-8. What does a successful season look like in your mind?
A successful season looks like a Montgomery Central football team that comes out every single Friday night, plays our brand of physical football, and leaves it all out in the field. That's what a successful season for 10 games. We have some goals that we've set, that our players have set, but to me, that is the tell is if we're going to be a successful season or not. If we come out 10 games in a row and we execute, we're physical, we put the team first, and we hold ourselves to our standard.
Were there some, like you said, you have some of the guys that you're expecting to be some of your top guys, but were there maybe some guys that have made big leaps or stepped up that you maybe weren't expecting?
Absolutely. We have a guy who just recently joined us. He was a baseball player, Melosi Laban. He's going to be a big player for us. He's came and joined us this offseason, and he's made some huge jumps, and we're expecting a lot out of him. Another guy that I think has progressed quite a bit is Mason Osgood. He's our center. He's came a long way. Aiden Buckley, our left tackle, he's also came a long way. Yeah, I could keep going all day, but I know we don't want to name off the whole roster.
Wade, you guys had your first scrimmage last night against Kenwood. Have two more for the start of the regular season, but just based on where you expected the expectations to be at this point, just from a player perspective, how do you think you guys looked against Kenwood?
I think we looked pretty good. Me and Coach talked about that on the way in this morning. I watched film all night last night, and it looked good. It highlighted things that we need to work on, but that's the same with every team, right? That's why we scrimmage. We're getting ready for the season, but I like how we're working. I like how we're working together, and we're ready to go.
What did you think about it last night?
I thought we did some good things, man. I did. We had a slow first 2 days of practice, first 2 days in full pads, and I think that kind of reflected. But our last 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, were really good, really physical, and we flew around. So I think that was also shown up. Got to work on the basic fundamental things like wrapping up on tackling, running backs hitting their tracks, and pass protection, making our reads. But those are things that are pretty typical for every team right now. But the big message to the guys was this is the start of the journey. Keep it rolling. Watch the film. Be critical of yourself and grow. We're big on watching film, as most teams are, but and be ready to get back after it on Monday. We got Dixon County next week, which is a really good program with Coach Tomlinson, so that'll be a good test for us as well.
Based on where you expect it to be at this point, just based on the entire offseason of work, where are you at, do you think, at this point, based on where you expect it to be?
I like where we're at right now. I'm not pleased with it by any means. There's always room for improvement. But, if just compare it to last year, I think we're light years ahead of where we were last year. Still got a long ways to go, a lot of things to work on to shore up. Varsity, really like where we're at. But I'm also really pleased with where our JV guys are. They've shown a lot of improvement. We've got 40 freshmen this year, and they've all came out, got some really good ball players in there. I'm excited about them. They're the future, going to be the future of our program. And I've liked the way that they've worked and kind of where they are and understanding their jobs. And some of them are playing multiple positions. So that was that was kind of a highlight of last night as well.
You mentioned, 80, 85 kids or whatever on the roster this year. Mm-hmm. That, I don't know exact numbers, but that feels like a lot bigger roster than Central's had in years past. When you can have, that many kids that, want to come play football at a 4A school, how does that kind of set you up for years in the future?
Oh, I think it's great. And I think it's a testament to what our guys have been doing and how hard they have been working, because it's their program. So we have kind of I consider it a contagious positive energy that goes on. Like, hey, we're going to show up and we're going to work, but we're going to have a little fun at the same time. So I think it's a great thing. It brings its own logistical challenges sometimes. Like we were talking about some picture days and stuff like that, but it's great, man. I love it. We have some really good kids out at Montgomery Central, and it's a blessing to get to work with them. And I'm excited about this season.
I want to thank Coach Page and Wade for joining me today to continue our 2025 Montgomery County Football Media Day. You can check out the Indians this fall, and you can check out all of our high school football coverage at mainstreetclarksville.com.